Well, I mean, first of all, in regard to our European allies, the Canadians and the Mexicans, we're using a national security issue to try to drive increased tariffs. It doesn't make any sense. And I hear what your folks are saying, but believe me, if you're in agriculture, if you're in the compliance appliance business and you need to use imported steel, your costs go up and consumers' prices go up. I mean, it's not complicated. So if you have a beef with the agreements that were set in place by your predecessor, then go through the normal channels. Don't just be slapping things on there. And do we need an expedited process to deal with countries that may be cheating under the rules? Yes, of course we do. But a national security issue is, I mean, it's kind of, it's not even legitimate.
So I take it then you
in regard to China.
You understand then, obviously, some of the president's frustrations, not only with China and some of our bilateral trading partners, but also with the snail's pace at which gripes get acted on at the WTO.
Well, look, you know, right. Well, there were agreements made. And in agreements, there's always trade-offs. One country gets something on one end, and another country gets something on the other end. There is no, as I understand it now, as it relates to our relationship with Canada and Mexico and Europe, there's no violations under that agreement. What they have imposed here is a national security issue against nations like Canada. I mean, what are we talking about here? And so I just don't accept that. If you have a legitimate beef, then get back to the table and begin to negotiate it and change the agreement that had been reached. Because what this does with our closest allies, and you take this, you take the environment issue, the withdrawal from the Paris Accord, the unilateral action on Iran, the kind of dressing down that happened at the G7. I hope we're going to have a better summit in Europe. What we're doing is we're creating a division with our friends who have kept the peace for 70 years in this world. And so we have to be careful that we're not fraying relationships that have kept us peaceful, safer, that includes free trade. Now, when you get to China, a little different issue. And that's a place where we should be pulling China into the WTO. And all of our allies ought to be making it clear to China that we're not going to tolerate their ripping off technology or the violations in trade. But, you know, on one hand, we're beating up our allies, and on the other hand, we want them to help us in regard to China. It's kind of, you know, like a mixed message. So my greatest concern in many regards here, the issues surrounding NATO, the issues of trade, the issues of unilateral action, means that we are fraying the relationships that have been so important to this country post-World War II.
Tell us about this new technology, the mobility technology that you're showcasing today. And, you know, as long as we're talking about trade issues, is this the kind of business and industry that can create more jobs for your state?
Well, it already has. And, you know, look, our goal here in Ohio, we've got cloud computing now in the state. We use massive amounts of data analytics. We're starting to see more capital being invested from the standpoint of private equity, venture capital. We're beginning to see that. Our goal here is that Ohio would be viewed now as the knowledge belt, not the rust belt with a bunch of dilapidated factories. That's not who we are here anymore. We've invested enormously in infrastructure. This facility I'm at today will be the largest facility like it in the entire continent, and will allow people to come in here on a full-time basis to be able to test connected cars, be able to test fully automatic cars, be in the position of where we're going to be able to see, you know, fully autonomous vehicles. You know, you go, it's a process. It's connected, it's fully autonomous. Sure. This is a facility that can accommodate all people from all over the world, and we're seeing people come now.
So, Governor, this is a technology in which a lot of companies, a lot of states are investing millions of dollars in, and I expect that, or suspect that there will be a lot of IP generated from this self-driving car center that you're aiming to build in Ohio. I mean, part of the whole trade row with China is protecting that intellectual property. I mean, self-driving and autonomous vehicle technology is something that China is very dedicated to developing on its own. So how would you go about making sure that that IP is protected, if not through the threat of tariffs and so on, as the president is going down that road right now?
Right. Well, isn't that part of the WTO? Isn't that why we let China in the WTO? To say that they're rules of the road? And when you violate the rules of the road, you need to call them on it. And I have my disagreements with the way that the Chinese have stolen technology. I also kind of wonder about when companies have gone to China, were they under an illusion that China wasn't going to steal their things? So there's a little bit of responsibility on the part of the businesses that decide to go, that may give up some of their secrets, or where they're forced to cooperate with the Chinese government. These are serious issues. But the question is, do you resolve this through a tit-for-tat imposition of tariffs? Is that the best way to handle this? I think the best way to handle this is through the WTO. That to me is, and to make it clear to companies, you're going to go to China, you better be careful. But we don't want them stealing our secrets. We don't want them cheating. But that's why we created this international trade organization that reduces friction and gets people in a position of where we can all be more successful. Because as you know, free and fair trade has resulted in the greatest improvement of the lives of people on the globe in the history of humanity. So free and fair makes great sense. We ought to practice it. And when we see unfair, take action.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.